I, a 25-year-old female, just ended an argument with my 27-year-old boyfriend, Alan, by informing him that I wouldn't be moving in with him after all. He says I'm being dramatic and overreacting, but I think he's showing warning signs. Alan and I have been dating for 2 years and decided to move in together once our leases ended. His lease ends in 3 months, and mine ends next week. We found a new place together, and I'm scheduled to move in on the last day of my lease. Our agreement was that we would split the deposit and fees. I would pay the full rent until he moved in, so he wouldn't have to pay rent for 2 places or end his lease early. Once his lease ends, we plan to add him to the lease and then split the rent and bills 70-30. Since I make more money, I believe in paying proportionally when living together. During dinner tonight, I brought up the topic of deciding which furniture to keep and what to get rid of once he moves in. I assumed that I would bring in my own belongings for the next 3 months, and then we would figure out how to combine our different decorating styles when he moved in. However, I wanted to know which major pieces of furniture he wanted to keep, get rid of, or replace altogether. Please note that I never expected him to let me decorate and furnish the entire apartment. That's when Alan looked confused and said, "Aren't you getting rid of most of your stuff?" I asked him what he meant. Why would I have to get rid of most of my belongings? He replied, "Babe, I can't imagine living in a place decorated like your apartment." His disbelieving tone offended me, but I understood that my decorating style isn't what most people prefer. So I said, "Of course I don't expect to decorate the entire apartment. That's why we need to decide which belongings of yours and mine we're going to keep and how to blend our different styles." Alan sighed, as if he was trying to explain something simple to someone who didn't understand, no matter how he phrased it. Then he told me, "No guy would ever want to live with any of your stuff." He even went so far as to say that I was lucky to even stay over without complaining. Now, I'll admit that my personal decorating style won't land my place in any interior design magazines. However, his comments seemed sexist and incredibly rude. For context, my decor has been described by my friends as Barbie meets goth and neon fairy obsessed with death. It consists of bright colors like pink, green, and blue, mostly pink and morbid decor. Here are some examples. I have a Halloween skull bowl that I painted hot pink and glued rhinestones to, which I use to hold snacks and candy in the kitchen. I have a collection of stuffed animals and squishmallows arranged on a large lime green cabinet that holds my movies and games. The stuffed animals are positioned around a small, non-functional guillotine, as if they were executing Mr. Sherbert Puke. He is a teddy bear I had as a child, colored in a pastel rainbow pattern that reminded me of the time I ate too much sherbet and threw up on my babysitter. I refuse to change his name in his old age, and the other stuffed animals are acting out a French Revolution on him. My bathroom is exclusively decorated with mushrooms. If it comes in a mushroom pattern, chances are I had it in my bathroom. The bath mat, shower curtain, trash can, wall decals, towels, and toothbrush holder were all either shaped like mushrooms or covered in mushroom designs, mostly in pink, blue, and yellow. My couch is pink, my coffee table is teal, and my TV stand is gray, with bright blue floral contact paper lining the shelves and cabinets. As I mentioned, I understand that this aesthetic isn't for everyone, but I never thought Alan had a problem with it. The first time he visited my apartment, he said it suited my personality. Whenever I acquired a new piece of decor or did a DIY project, he would compliment me on them. I know that doesn't necessarily mean he wanted to live in an apartment filled with this stuff, but I never thought he disliked it enough to claim that I was lucky he tolerated it when he stayed over. I grew up in a house where everything was gray, brown, or white, and that kind of aesthetic bores me personally. I enjoy having fun and colorful things in my home. I was more than willing to make compromises to my style in order to live with my boyfriend, except for the guillotine, which took me a long time to make. However, he refused to accept any of the compromises I offered. He didn't want me to keep any of my furniture. He said the pink couch was too girly, the lime green cabinet was ugly, the various skull-shaped objects were creepy and strange, and my colorful mushroom bathroom was childish. After an hour of attempting to find some kind of compromise on which belongings I could keep, I finally asked him if he intended to make me get rid of everything I owned. His response was, "No, babe, I love your clothes." He actually expects me to move into an apartment, live there for 3 months, and then discard all of my belongings when he moves in. I pointed out that this was ridiculous, as it would mean packing up and moving my things twice in 3 months. Not to mention the fact that he wants me to get rid of things I made with love because I couldn't find matching items to fit my style. And I assure you, it took a lot of effort for each of those DIY projects because I'm not particularly skilled in that area. Alan claimed that this was a sacrifice I had to make for our relationship to progress. So I asked him if he planned to get rid of his belongings so that we could choose new things together that we both liked. He said no. According to him, I should be more than satisfied with his belongings because none of it was weird, creepy, or covered in glitter, since I do like shiny things and rhinestones, but I don't bring glitter into my home. I couldn't help but laugh at his response. I might be the jerk for doing so, but I told him that his style was the most basic I had ever seen, and if it wasn't for his furniture being mostly black, I would say he had the taste of a dull, beige mother. Alan was angry and said that I should act like an adult instead of decorating like a little girl. I asked him why he was with me if my style was so offensive to him when he was the one who initially said it matched my personality. His response was, "You're a fun and quirky person, but that doesn't mean you should decorate like a 3-year-old. How can I have friends over without being embarrassed?" So I informed him that he wouldn't be moving in until he apologized for insulting me and my style, and agreed to let me keep at least half of my belongings. Currently, my name is the only one on the lease, and I'm the only one who can afford the apartment on my own, so I won't be adding him to the lease unless I believe he's truly sorry for what he said. I refuse to live with someone who is embarrassed by something as important to me as my personal style. I believe he's succumbed to the nonsense idea that pink is too feminine and doesn't want me to keep my decor because his friends will make jokes about him letting me take control or being whipped or something. How can I convince him to find a compromise? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Your style sounds really fun and unique. Never dull your shine for somebody else. It's not even that he didn't personally enjoy or relate to your things, decor. It's the complete lack of willingness to find a compromise. He literally expected you to just do as he asks. Your views, inputs, and tastes were wrong. His way is right, so everything has to go. The whole, "you're lucky I'm with you," is honestly so gross. He honestly sounds like he tolerates you and your interests, not really accepts or cherishes the special person you obviously are. You deserve better. And by the way, even though your styles are obviously polar opposite, you really did try to compromise, repeatedly tried to find a way to blend your new home so you'd each keep some of your belongings and interests. You should be able to feel happy and comfortable in your own home. Maybe to him, that's living in the set for American Psycho. It doesn't sound like he's willing to find a happy middle with you. Comment 2. Honestly, while your style sounds like a living nightmare for me, it's not about that. You love it, and as your partner, he needs to at least respect it. He's not even trying. Moving in together isn't just about sharing space. It's about learning that love isn't the only thing that matters, that compromise and mutual respect and a plethora of other things are needed for a relationship to work. This man is telling you, flat out, that he appreciates you, but he doesn't really respect who you are. If he's not ready for compromise now, at the very start of the racing line, when things are happy and easy, don't expect it from him later. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, it's been 2 weeks since my last post about the argument with my boyfriend Alan over our decorating styles and moving in together. I've got quite the update for you all. After our fight, things were tense. Alan and I didn't talk for a few days, which gave me time to think. I remembered how he used to be so supportive of my hobbies, like when I started collecting those quirky salt and pepper shakers. He even found a rare set at a garage sale once and was so proud to give them to me. It was hard to reconcile that thoughtful guy with the one who wanted me to ditch my style completely. When we finally did talk, it was clear Alan had been doing some thinking too. He apologized for his harsh words and admitted he was worried about what his friends would think. He said he didn't want to lose me over something like furniture. I was moved by his apology, but I knew words were one thing, actions were another. We agreed to meet and discuss how we could blend our styles without completely giving up our individuality. It was a long conversation, and we both had to make concessions. I agreed to tone down some of the brighter colors, and he agreed to incorporate some of my favorite pieces into the decor. Things were looking up, and I was cautiously optimistic. We even had a date night where we laughed and joked like old times. But then the unexpected happened. One evening, I came home from work to find Alan in the apartment with a few of his friends. They were all laughing at something, and when I walked in, the room went silent. I noticed one of Alan's friends holding my pink skull bowl, the one I had painted and bedazzled myself. He had a smirk on his face, and I felt my heart sink. Alan tried to smooth things over, but the damage was done. I realized that no matter what he said to me in private, he still cared more about his friends' opinions than my feelings. It was a gut punch to see that the respect I thought we had for each other wasn't as strong as I believed. We had another argument, this time in front of his friends. I told Alan that I couldn't be with someone who didn't respect me or my belongings, which were a part of who I am. His friends tried to intervene, saying it was all a joke, but I wasn't laughing. The next day, Alan came over to talk. He was remorseful and admitted he had been a jerk to let his friends mock my style. He said he wanted to make it right, but I was already exhausted from the emotional roller coaster. I told him I needed space to think about our relationship and whether it could survive this. For the next week, I focused on myself. I rearranged the apartment, finding new homes for my beloved decor. I even made a new centerpiece for the living room, a compromise between my style and something more neutral. It felt good to take control of my space again. Alan reached out several times, each message more desperate than the last. He missed me, he said. He was sorry, he said, but I couldn't shake the image of his friends laughing at my expense. Finally, I agreed to meet him for coffee. We sat down, and he poured his heart out. He told me he had been talking to a therapist about why he cared so much about his friends' opinions and how he could be a better partner. He wanted to try again, with a real commitment to respecting each other's tastes. I was torn. Part of me wanted to forgive him and start over, but another part of me was scared of getting hurt again. We decided to take it slow, not moving in together just yet, but working on our relationship from the ground up. So here we are, 2 weeks later. Alan and I are still together, but it's not the same. We're more careful around each other, and there's an unspoken tension that wasn't there before. We're trying, though, and I guess that's something. My boyfriend's mentor calls non-stop, so I accuse him of cheating, but he proves it's all work. We're now on a break, and I'm getting help. Have been in a relationship with my boyfriend for 2 years. Never had any real problems until now. He moved to a new job about 4 months ago and is being mentored into the job by a senior female employee. She calls him after work hours too to make sure that the work is on schedule and to inform him of various responsibilities of the next day. I have been okay with all this until one day she called him around bedtime and asked him if he could pick her up in the morning because of some problems with her car. I found this unnecessary and told him to not do it. He said it was okay for one day and did pick her up in the morning. I argued with him in the evening and told him that I find her calling him outside of work to be uncomfortable. He rejected that and said she only says things about work, and as she mentors him, he cannot just ask her to not call anymore. This has been going on for some time. But the breaking point came yesterday. One of my friends called me yesterday noon and told me that she saw my boyfriend eating lunch in a restaurant with another woman. She described the woman and I was sure that it was the mentor. In my mind, I was almost sure that it was nothing, but still when he came home, I exploded and screamed at him and accused him of cheating on me with her. I shouted over him for a good 30 minutes. When I calmed down, he looked livid and showed me a photo on his phone. It was a selfie of him and several of his colleagues having lunch, and it was just that he and the mentor took a smaller single table by the side of the extended one. I apologized a lot, but he said that he doesn't feel comfortable that I am getting insecure over him working with a woman. This morning, he told me that he needed some space and went to his friend's house. He is not taking my calls anymore, and I want to go to his friend's house to talk to him. How can I convince him that I know that I went overboard with my reaction? Update. Sorry for not replying to the comments. I was distraught and the opinions are understandably against me. I understand from reading many of them that I might have BPD, still to be diagnosed. I am planning to go to therapy and counseling. I have sent him a message saying this and that he can take as much time as he wants, and that I would completely understand if he wants to break up. As for people asking why I screamed at him when I didn't think there was a problem, I really don't know. At that moment, I couldn't control myself, and all the irritation I felt from her spending time with him must have come out. I will update whatever that happens when he decides to talk to me. Edit. Some of you have asked why the mentoring is continuing after 4 months. I can't say what his job is, but I know that the mentoring period for his job is 6 months. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. That's wild. I often eat lunch with my colleagues, men and women, work with both. Surprise? I've also given and received rides to my coworkers. Sometimes life happens, and it makes sense because we're heading to the same destination. I don't know what you can do to make up for this. There's the lack of trust, but also major issues with your communication style. If you can't discuss these things without blowing a fuse, who wants to deal with that vitriol? Comment 2. Bro, this is not even close to cheating to accuse someone of cheating. Lunch with a colleague, even if it was one-on-one, isn't cheating, for God's sake. Red flags would be being secretive with calls with her, deleting messages with her, sending pictures of him to her or receiving pictures of her, going out drinking one-on-one without other colleagues. Now for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a week since my last post and a lot has happened. I've been on an emotional roller coaster, but I think things are finally starting to settle down. First off, I want to thank those of you who suggested I might have BPD. I took that seriously and made an appointment with a therapist. I haven't been diagnosed yet, but I've started attending sessions to work on my issues. It's been tough, but I'm committed to getting better, not just for my relationship, but for myself. Now, on to the juicy stuff. After my boyfriend moved out, I was a mess. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, and I kept replaying our argument over and over in my head. I felt like I had ruined everything with my insecurities and overreactions. I sent him a message explaining that I was seeking help and that I understood if he needed space. I didn't expect a reply, but to my surprise, he texted back the next day. He said he appreciated my efforts to get help and that he needed some time to think things through. He didn't say much else, but it was a start. I clung to that message like a lifeline, hoping it meant he was open to working things out. A few days later, I got a call from him. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely speak. He asked if we could meet up to talk. I agreed, and we decided to meet at a coffee shop the following day. The meeting was tense at first. We both sat there, sipping our drinks, not sure how to start. Finally, he broke the silence. He told me that he understood why I was upset, but that his relationship with his mentor was strictly professional. He explained that the mentoring was part of a structured program at his job, and it was normal for mentors and mentees to spend time together, even outside of work hours. He also admitted that he could have been more transparent about their interactions and apologized for not considering my feelings more. That took me by surprise. I hadn't expected him to take any responsibility for the situation. I apologized again for my outburst and explained that I was working on my trust issues with a therapist. I told him I loved him and that I didn't want to lose him over this. We talked for hours, clearing the air and discussing how we could improve our communication. But here's the real shocker. He told me that his mentor had actually been pushing him to resolve things with me. She had noticed he was off his game at work and had encouraged him to talk to me. She even offered to meet with me to clear up any misunderstandings. I was floored. Here I was, thinking she was the enemy, and she was actually looking out for our relationship. I agreed to meet with her, and a couple of days later, we did. It was awkward at first, but she was incredibly understanding. She explained her role as a mentor and assured me there was nothing personal between her and my boyfriend. She even shared stories of her own relationship struggles, which helped me see her as a person, not just my boyfriend's mentor. After that meeting, things started to look up. My boyfriend and I have been spending more time together, and we're slowly rebuilding our trust. He's been more open about his work, and I've been working on managing my emotions better. We're not completely back to normal yet, but we're getting there. He's still staying at his friend's place, but we've been talking about him moving back in. We're taking it one day at a time, but I'm hopeful for our future. I canceled my trip when my friend invited herself and wouldn't take a hint, but her surprise later made us rethink our plans. I was having lunch with two of my friends when Ash, 25-year-old female, asked me what my travel plans were for 2024. I told her I was really excited about planning my first trip overseas with my boyfriend, 25-year-old male, and as soon as I said that, Allie, 28-year-old female, perked up and said, "Oh, let me know when you're going so I can come too." We were both taken aback by the abruptness of her statement. She didn't even ask. I gently tried to tell her, "Oh yeah, that'd be nice. However, we would maybe like to do couple things," which she replied with, "Oh yuck, but that's fine. I just want to go shopping and get some sun." How do I gently tell her I do not want her on our trip? These are my main issues with it. Allie, I love her neurodivergent butt to death, but she can be a lot. Has called me needing help with basic household chores before, making me reschedule my own plans, because, for example, she cut her finger to the bone. She did not cut her finger to the bone. I lived 30 minutes away and had to cancel plans when she managed to get herself together, about 20 minutes into my drive. Given herself food poisoning at least 5 times last year. Sprained her wrist, so I had to drop her off at the emergency ward at the hospital. Sprained her ankle as soon as she touched the ocean, so I couldn't go swimming because she would be lonely on land. She was not initially invited to this. On multiple occasions, inserted herself into conversations I am in that do not involve her, nor do the other people know who she is. And she won't leave. I usually end up excusing myself because I can see the person I'm talking to is getting uncomfortable. She assumes everyone that knows me knows her. I play a sport really well, so a lot of people know who I am, and I will often have random people talk to me. She will even later tell me that, "Oh, I tried to say hi to X and Y today, but they looked at me like they had never seen me before." And I have to keep reminding her that they don't know her, but she insists she has spoken to them many times. This gets very exhausting. Invited herself to a birthday party as my plus one when she didn't even know the birthday girl, but she claimed she did. Made my boyfriend and I spend our first Christmas together at her house so she wouldn't feel lonely. I was overseas last Christmas and she gave herself alcohol poisoning. Invited herself to our family's Christmas where she only knew me. My boyfriend and her are more acquaintances, so I was left to entertain her to the point I couldn't enjoy my time. Me, the situation. Traveling is expensive. I want to be selfish when I travel. The last time I traveled with someone who's not my childhood best friend was almost a decade ago. I will have a hard time compromising. It's our first trip together. This is also my forever partner, so I would like this to be a memorable trip where we are each other's 100% focus. I am an introvert and my social batteries are as bad as an iPhone 7, and then I get cranky, and I don't want to subject my boyfriend to that. My boyfriend has never left the country before. It's exciting, but I am also 100% preparing to take on all of the mental load while we're traveling. In my awful, blunt brain, I just want to tell her, "Hey, I don't want you there. You will ruin the trip. I don't want to eat a romantic dinner for 3, or do a scooter ride for 3. You're way too accident-prone for me to relax when you're there, even if you were on the other side of the island. I do not want to get a call from a random hospital saying you have done XYZ to yourself. If you want to go, and we happen to be in the same area, you will have to be 1000% fine that I will ignore you. I am by no means stopping her from going overseas. I just don't want the mental load of another person, take into account her wishes, worry if she will F-king drown or dislocate her shoulder, etc. But her rejection sensitivity is real. She's still a good friend of mine, so I'm trying to be gentle with her. I feel like if she goes on this trip with us, I will end up despising her. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You have trained her to think she can ask anything of you and get it by running to help her whenever she claims she needs it. The issue isn't just the trip, it's your entire relationship with this person. Hurting her feelings by saying the trip is just for the two of you sounds like it might make your whole life better. Comment 2. One word: boundaries. Just because she is neurodivergent doesn't mean she gets away with, quite frankly, shitty or outrageous or childish behavior. You are enabling this. So it's your choice how you move forward, not just for this trip, but generally as a friendship. You don't drive 30 minutes for a cut finger. Now for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a wild couple of weeks since my last post, and boy do I have an update for you all. So, remember how Ally wanted to tag along on my first overseas trip with my boyfriend? Well, things escalated, and not in the way you might expect. After that lunch, I spent days mulling over how to handle the situation. My boyfriend, bless him, was as supportive as ever, but I could tell he was worried about the trip turning into a babysitting gig. We both wanted this trip to be special, just the two of us, exploring and making memories without any distractions. Then, out of the blue, Ally called me in a panic. She had managed to lock herself out of her apartment. Again. This was the third time this month, and each time I was the one who had to rush over with my spare key. As I drove over, I realized this was the perfect opportunity to talk to her about the trip. When I got there, Ally was waiting outside, looking frazzled. I let her in, and we sat down for a heart-to-heart. I gently explained that while I valued our friendship, this trip was important for my boyfriend and me. I told her we needed it to be just the two of us. To my surprise, she took it better than I expected. She was disappointed, sure, but she understood, or so I thought. The next day, I heard from a mutual friend that Ally had been asking around for travel deals to the same destination we were planning to visit. My heart sank. It seemed like she hadn't taken our conversation seriously at all. I braced myself for another confrontation. But before I could reach out to her, Ally called me. She was sobbing. She had tried to cook dinner and ended up starting a small fire in her kitchen. The fire was out, but she was shaken up. I rushed over, and we spent the evening sorting through the mess and talking. That's when Ally dropped a bombshell. She confessed that she felt lonely and left out, especially since I had been spending more time with my boyfriend. She admitted that her accidents and emergencies were partly a cry for attention. I was stunned. I had no idea she felt that way. We talked for hours, and I reassured her that she was important to me. We agreed that she needed to find ways to be more independent, and that I couldn't always be her go-to person for every crisis. It was a tough conversation, but it brought us closer. In the days that followed, Ally started making changes. She signed up for cooking classes to avoid any more kitchen disasters and joined a local meetup group to make new friends. She even started seeing a therapist to work on her rejection sensitivity. As for the trip, my boyfriend and I decided to move our travel dates without telling Ally. It felt sneaky, but we needed this time to ourselves. We planned our itinerary, booked our flights, and started counting down the days. Then, just when I thought everything was settled, Ally surprised us again. She invited us over for dinner, and when we arrived, she had prepared a feast. All dishes she had learned to make in her cooking class. The food was delicious, and there was no sign of food poisoning in sight. After dinner, Ally gave us a gift, a travel guide to our destination with a note inside. It read, "Have the most amazing trip, you two. I'll be here when you get back, hopefully a little less accident-prone. Love, Ally." I was touched. It was clear that Ally had been working hard to respect our boundaries and to grow as a person. My boyfriend and I left her place feeling lighter and more excited for our trip than ever. And now, here we are, 2 weeks later. My boyfriend and I are back from our trip, and it was everything we hoped it would be. We explored, laughed, and made unforgettable memories, just the two of us. And Allie? She's doing great. She's made new friends, hasn't had any accidents, and is even planning a solo trip of her own. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.